When work flies out of control, Harrelson's Own keeps me cool as a cucumber.
When the kids turn unholy, Harrelson's Own keeps my patience divine.
Life can be chaotic, but Harrelson's Own CBD helps keep you calm through any storm. Harrelson's Own consistently delivers you full mind and body homeostasis. It's an organic, full-spectrum CBD in a refreshing oral spray. Our nano-emulsified technology makes it completely water-soluble, so your body absorbs it immediately. You'll start to feel it in seconds, not 60 minutes. It just makes everything feel better. Give Harrelson's Own a try, from our family to yours.
Give your life a boost.
It's just the best you've ever felt in your natural state.
It just feels sensational. Go to sensational.com to order now. Sensational.com.
Go to sensational.com/family for 25% off your order. Yes, 25% off. That's sensational.com/family.
Hello, thanks for tuning in to another episode of NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice on Cannabis Radio. I'm your host, Bethany Moore, the Director of Communications at the National Cannabis Industry Association. Today, I'm talking with a couple members of our Risk Management and Insurance Committee, Jodi Green and Mathew Grimes. Jodi Green is a business attorney in Miller Nash LLP's Los Angeles office, focusing on cannabis and policyholder insurance recovery. She's a member of our Risk Management Insurance Committee, as I mentioned, and was named by Super Lawyers as a rising star in insurance coverage for 5 consecutive years. Miller Nash's 140-member law firm has nearly 30 attorneys practicing in its nationally recognized cannabis group alone. Their cannabis team serves cannabis companies operating in all industry verticals by providing advice in all legal practice areas, from corporate formation to employment, to insurance coverage and litigation, and everything in between. And then our other guest, Mathew Grimes, is a Chicago-based attorney who's worked exclusively in the cannabis industry since 2017. First, as a business attorney whose firm served cannabis companies at every link of the supply chain. Then starting in 2019 as an insurance broker with a focus on helping to grow and refine the cannabis insurance marketplace with an emphasis on expanding coverage offerings, enterprise risk management, and claims advocacy. He's been a member of our Risk Management Insurance Committee since 2019, and he serves as vice chair for the American Bar Association's Cannabis Law and Policy Committee. And he's also a member of the International Cannabis Business Association. Thank you so much to both of you for joining the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Jodi, as well. So let's jump in. In addition to everything that I've already shared about both of you, you're both very accomplished attorneys. Let's learn a bit more about your background and other things that you did before getting involved in cannabis law and insurance related issues. Jodi, would you like to go first?
Sure. And thanks again so much for having me on here. So I think, like many things in life, my road to cannabis was a long, winding, and unexpected one, but I've always been a fan of the plant. And I remember when I went to law school, I thought to myself, that's basically the end of that. Right. But here I am. I've always pushed boundaries, and sometime in the pandemic, it really triggered this need to embrace the authentic me, which prompted my move to Miller Nash and focus on cannabis related issues. Prior to joining Miller Nash, I was an insurance coverage lawyer, evaluating insurance coverage for million and billion-dollar losses on behalf of the country's largest carriers. And I was looking at some cannabis issues, and I realized that I could make much more of an impact working with companies involved in the industry instead of from the insurer side.
Excellent. Great. So where did you attend college? Or in California as well? Have you always lived in the Los Angeles area?
Very interesting question. Well, Matt Grimes and I just, in prep for this podcast, despite being on a committee together, realized we went to law school together.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I started practicing law in Chicago years ago. We both went to DePaul Law School. Prior to that, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so a Midwesterner at heart. But the cold weather drove me away. So happy to be in LA now.
Excellent. Great. So Mathew, awesome that you two were coincidentally classmates there. Tell me about what you did prior to getting involved in cannabis law and insurance.
Sure. Thank you so much again for hosting us. And it's a pleasure to be here. Prior to joining the cannabis industry, I've always had a relationship with the plant, going well back into undergrad. As a matter of fact, if you bought weed in Kirksville, Missouri between 95 and 98, it most likely had my fingerprints on it.
Oh my goodness.
So again, a long relationship with the plant. But
That's
here
amazing.
I need to tell you a personal story about how I pivoted into making it a full-time profession. And this is about my brother. My brother, Eric, was in a severe car accident way back in 2003. He sustained a traumatic brain injury, and life for him from that moment forward was a struggle. And I saw cannabis work up close and personally as medicine. He had been prescribed these, goblets of tablets to take to control all of the repercussions from the accident, including anti-epileptics and all kinds of things. And in the end, it was cannabis that helped him to live his happiest and healthiest life. And on the day that we celebrated his life, I committed to making this business my business for forevermore. And so I've been working as an advocate in this space since that day.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. Sorry to hear about the struggles that your brother went through, but it's interesting to hear how cannabis can, in the very least, improve the quality of life for folks who are dealing with an immense amount of suffering for various reasons. So moving into the present, both of you are serious advocates and involved in this industry, involved in one of NCIA's 14 committees, or Risk Management and Insurance Committee, contributing to the conversation and pushing our industry forward with thought leadership. So I'm curious, in addition to what you're focused on in your individual roles at your firms, what the Risk Management and Insurance Committee is up to this year. We're more than halfway through the year 2022 already, believe it or not. What have you been working on in the committee, and where are we going forward at this stage in our industry's development?
Jodi,
Mathew.
would you like to go first?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so the committee it's pretty vast, right? Our role touches almost everything in the industry, risk management and insurance, when you think about it, because every business needs those things. So, on a day-to-day, we're working on updating our insurance manual to provide businesses with information about insurance requirements and, pitfalls to look out for, which is very, very important. Other educational information, podcasts like this, articles on new and emerging issues and how to avoid risks with them, things like minor cannabinoids, which are coming up, and becoming more prevalent. I've been looking into, issues with obviously consumption lounges and beverages a lot lately, because, those are two of the new hot things on the market these days.
Oh yeah, consumption lounges are definitely coming up in conversation quite a bit. The licenses are starting to become a little bit more commonplace. That's fascinating to watch as well. Mathew, how about you?
Yeah, on my side, I sort of chair up the webinar committee within the Risk Management and Insurance Committee. And coming up here, a date to be finalized, but late August, I believe, or early September, we're going to be putting on a webinar with a gentleman named Andrew Brisboe, who has long since been part of the regulator community. He started out in Michigan, and now I believe he's at CANRA. But we're going to talk all around the different types of regulations, state and then municipal, that will impact consumption lounges and in different states, and what that looks like, and how to, protect your business, and how to also comport with any regulations.
Awesome. Yeah. And with the consumption lounge, I mean, that's expanding to, essentially it's hospitality, right?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, just shout out for Denver stuff here. Here in Denver, a person I know, Chris Chiari, is opening, he's already running a historic bed and breakfast hotel. And he has the first bed and breakfast consumption lounge license that I'm aware of, and is working to get his cannabis consumption side of this hotel open, this historic hotel. Isn't that just mind-blowing that we're moving to, it's not just, a lounge with couches and volcanoes and snacks like Cheetos and Pepsi, but it's expanding into these other resort-like experiences as well, which I just find fascinating.
I think we're going to have to go visit, make a trip to Denver soon, Matt. What do you think?
Come visit anytime.
I'm in.
Okay.
I always love Denver.
And if you guys are good at pinball, I challenge you to a game as well. So keep that in mind. On that note, let's take our first commercial break, and we'll come right back and chat more with Jodi and Mathew. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice will return once we give a voice to our sponsors.
Think about a bicycle. It takes balance to get where you want to go. Now think about business. Whatever your business or organization, you ride the line between numbers and people. Just like the bike, it takes balance. CLA, CPAs, consultants, and wealth advisors. That's CLA. We'll get you there. Clifton Larson Allen LLP investment advisory services are offered through Clifton Larson Allen Wealth Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Free Kids Workshops are back in stores at the Home Depot. On the first Saturday of every month from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., bring your little ones to a local Home Depot for a hands-on learning experience that kids love. Find more kid-friendly projects and kids workshop kits at homedepot.com/kids. For 25 years, the Home Depot has been building confident, future doers with its free kids workshops. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. While supplies last, U.S. only.
All right, we're back on NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice, and we're chatting with Mathew Grimes and Jodi Green from Miller Nash. We mentioned consumption lounges right before the break, so I really want to keep talking about it. Cannabis consumption lounges are just the next thing in licensing here in the cannabis industry. We're growing it. We're selling it, we're manufacturing and producing it, we're lab testing it, and now we're creating spaces where customers can consume it. So let's set the playing field here by talking about what they are, how they work, why they exist, and why we need them or want them in our industry and society. Jodi, what are your thoughts on that?
So many questions.
Yep. Sorry.
I wish we had more time. So I think I'll start by saying, first off, consumption lounges, what are they, right? I think it's somewhat self-explanatory. It's, a place where people can gather and use cannabis in a public place or, a private business. I think in some places they're called different things. I'm not sure why we landed on the nomenclature consumption lounge. It sounds kind of like a medieval, health disorder of some sort, but we might call them cannabis cafes or cannabis lounges, normalize it a bit. But I think, you hit on something important earlier when you're talking about Denver, which is, some of these it's going to be much more than just a place to sit down and smoke a joint. Maybe that's fine. I think that in and of itself is great, that people can do that and come together. But, there will be opportunities to have more highly curated and experiential experiences as well, right? Including things like maybe in Las Vegas, right? There might be shows and entertainment to go along with it as well. So I think that, the sky's the limit really in terms of where people can go with these lounges.
Awesome. Yeah. Mathew, what's your perspective on the definition, the baseline here?
Well, honestly, I think that it is the next wave in cannabis normalization. You'd spoken earlier about hospitality, and I think that hospitality in concert with cannabis tourism is really going to drive growth in the consumption lounge arena. And for me, I like to zoom out and think of it as a matter of public policy. Here, you're giving people a safe place to consume a legal substance in an environment that is non-threatening. You're with like-minded folks, and you don't have to feel whatever feelings around stigma and shame or whatever comes to your mind when you're thinking about, smoking cannabis or just using it generally. And so I really think it's the next wave. I think it's the next frontier. I think you're going to start to see models like that in Denver that you just spoke of. I know that there's a bed and breakfast concept up in Michigan. And I really think that event spaces are going to be the future of how we move cannabis forward and get it to be sort of generally accepted in the mainstream.
Yeah. And also take on, that I think that with the, how hot cannabis beverages are right now, and with nano emulsion technology, reduced onset time, right? It's really going to usher in a whole new segment of the population and really help to break the stigma.
I couldn't agree more. I am, 100% bullish on the drink market. There are a lot of companies out there now with sophisticated and refined products, and they're, like you mentioned, nano emulsion. It's quick onset, quick offsite. Some of these beverages are doing 2 milligrams of THC coupled with 4 milligrams of CBD, and so you kind of get the entourage effect, more of a holistic high, if you will. Kind of a 1 + 1 will get you 3.
That's nice.
And they also, again, quick offset, so you don't have to be faced with eating this edible that might take up the next several hours of your life. Here you can just go have a couple drinks with your friends and then be on with your life. And so I'm really excited about the beverage market. I think there's a lot of disruption available in that space, and I really think you're going to see cannabis fill that void. And if there isn't already a void, it's going to create the void and be the desirable beverage or way to alter your experience here in short order. There's all kinds of health benefits, obviously, and all of the rest of the wonderful things that come along with cannabis, including waking up the next day and not feeling terrible. You had the night out, you had all the social lubricant you wanted, you had a fine time, you danced, you had a wonderful evening, and now you're able to wake up and be crystal clear at 9 a.m.
Sure.
Amen to that.
Yeah, sure. And talking about bars, how can we compare a business model of a consumption lounge to something that already exists? Like in the alcohol industry, there's bars, and for fine cigars, there's still a few special cigar lounges out there, hookah lounges, things like that. How is this similar and how is this different to those models? And have either of you had a chance to visit a cannabis consumption lounge yet?
You know what? It turns out that we both have. And so I'll take the opportunity to just speak about my experience. I went out to a consumption lounge here in Illinois. It's I'll just say the name. It's Rise Consumption Lounge in Mundelein, Illinois. It's owned and operated by Green Thumb Industries. And I went out there with a business partner and a friend, and kind of off hours to just see what the operation actually looked like and felt like and all the rest of it. And it was, by and large, a positive experience. In this model, the dispensary is connected to the consumption lounge, and so there's 2 different licenses there. The staff was entirely friendly. They seemed knowledgeable. They had multiple devices that you could use for free. They always came cleaned, and the bud tender would bring them to your table. There was a little dissonance, and again, we were there during some off hours, but there wasn't a lot to do. You get back in the room and it's just us, and there's a few games to be played, and then there was one gaming system that was available, so there was some stuff to do. But by and large, we just sat there and hung out for a little while and then went on our merry day. So
I guess that's similar to a bar, right?
Very similar to a bar right there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jodi, what was your experience?
I had a great experience. So California, like many places, is regulated by the locality. So local cities and jurisdictions can opt out of having cannabis lounges. But West Hollywood is, really prided itself on being a magnet, right, for canna tourism. And so I had the opportunity to visit the Artistry Lounge in West Hollywood. A beautiful, obviously thoughtful space. Its name is the Artistry. They have beautiful art throughout the space. I think, it does a lot to help eradicate the stigma, right? It's a curated, beautiful space, just like a nice restaurant would be, indoor, outdoor. And so, having that sort of place to be able to go and enjoy cannabis with like-minded people, like Matt said, is really a great opportunity. I think, lounges are going to be as disparate as anything, right? So companies have the opportunity to make what they want of them. It'll be very interesting to see how lounges roll out in the next year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. We're running out of time in this segment, but when we come back from the break, I want to talk a little more about the insurance perspective of all this. If we talk to our NCIA's facilities design committee, for example, they're going to talk about HVAC ventilation requirements. But from a risk management insurance perspective, there are other risks. There's other liability and other exposure that these businesses have about what could go wrong. And all that being said, there's ways that lounge operators can protect themselves legally. So when we come back from the break, we're going to dive into that and then make some announcements. So stay tuned. We will be right back on NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice. Stay tuned.
NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice will return once we give a voice to our sponsors.
New message.
Hey, man, it's Devin. From that time you accidentally emailed me because you thought I was a different Devin. Oh, and your email signature said confidential. If you receive this in error, please delete. That's so you. Anyway, I heard you bought a boat. When are we setting sail, Captain?
When you get a boat, you also get new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them and get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Oh, and no, you did not receive this message in error.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Don't miss incredible Macy's Black Friday and July specials, like 50% off designer dresses for any occasion. And complete the look with 30 to 50% off summer shoes and sandals. And get 40 to 60% off gadgets and cookware from Martha Stewart collection. Or get an extra 25% off with your coupon or Macy's card. Plus, download the Macy's app for even more great deals. Savings off sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
All right, we're back on NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice, and we're chatting with Mathew Grimes and Jodi Green from our Risk Management and Insurance Committee about the current state and future of cannabis consumption lounges, cafes, hotels, bed and breakfast, the whole 9 yards. So if you don't mind, let's dive right into what I was mentioning before the break, some of the insurance perspective side of the liability and exposure of these businesses. Mathew?
Sure. Thank you again. There's one of the first things that comes to mind, and the obvious thing here is overconsumption. You get an uninitiated or uninformed consumer in your establishment, and they think that they are Superman and they're going to take, way too much, way too strong of a dose. And so how do you watch for that? How do you mitigate that? And then what do you do on the other side of that? You've taken all the steps. Now, what does the insurance market have for you? And so on that score, as a matter of just, risk management, an entity with a consumption lounge license would want to consider a reasonable per customer consumption limit. You'd want to have warnings posted about the potential for impairment. And you could even go so far as to think about having a waiver signed by your patrons as you walked in to kind of take some of the fun out of it. But you have to remember, on the other side, all these folks are trying to operate within the confines of this regulatory apparatus that has been set up and isn't necessarily super friendly to the way things really are right now.
It could be a little sobering to have to sign a waiver.
Yeah, right.
Fair. Jodi, what's your perspective?
Yeah, well, I think all those things, and I know we're running short on time. I wanted to say that, I think that some locations are doing, encouraging customers to use rideshare, or even requiring them to sign off on that as part of making a reservation, like through an online reservation system. I think there's a lot of unsubstantiated fears probably about what will happen if there are consumption lounges. And, all of those fears are easily handled. Public nuisance fears about smells, right? Like, there are high quality air filtration systems. Matt touched on the fears of overconsumption. I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons here. But companies obviously have to be careful and have excellent training for not only their employees, but also consumer education, right? So that the customers, especially the uninitiated, Canna curious, know what they're getting into when they're consuming a product.
Yeah, I guess there's less risk for the, the veteran consumer, the experienced consumer. It's really those who don't have as much experience with the plant who might need a little more hand holding, and the reason to have these insurance protections for the business owner as well. That makes perfect sense. As we're wrapping up here quickly, I want to make some announcements. On Thursday, July 28th, NCIA is hosting our Colorado Industry Social. So this is in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m. in Denver, Colorado. NCIA members can register for free, of course, as always. And those who are not members can purchase tickets as well. It'll be a great time. We're excited to slowly get back into these in-person events off the heels of our successful New York tour that took place in June. So head to NCIA's website, thecannabisindustry.org, and register for the Colorado Industry Social under our events section for Thursday, July 28th. And even more exciting, on an international level, we're doing our first in-person lobby days since 2019. Whew, wow, what a weird few years. Anyway, this September, we are hosting our 10th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days in Washington, D.C. It is September 13th and 14th. And as always, register early so that our government relations team can start doing the Charlie meme behind the scenes of connecting the dots of who's on whose team and who's going to whose office and all that fun stuff. There's a lot of logistics behind the scenes. So please register early so our government relations team can get going on all those complicated logistics. You'll have training before the event. There's an opening networking reception, a closing reception with some of our champions, and full days of meetings. So go ahead and get registered for NCIA's Cannabis Industry Lobby Days. And there are sponsorship opportunities available for this event as well. So excited. Getting back to DC in person. We've basically been doing virtual lobby days in the recent years with our evergreen members. So opening it back up to the full membership and doing the fly-in, hotels, in-person meetings. Things are a little different now in the post-pandemic and post-January 6th world. So just be prepared for some changes, but we're navigating that as well. All that's on our website at thecannabisindustry.org. And as we are wrapping up this episode, I'm grateful for both of you for jumping in and taking the time to talk about the next big thing in cannabis, consumption lounges, and look forward to hanging out with both of you at a cannabis-friendly pinball bar, maybe. That would be right on. I am so ready for that. Thank you, Mathew, and thank you, Jodi. Where can people find out more about each of you and your companies? Jodi?
You can find me at Jodi Green at millernash.com, or pretty active on LinkedIn. You can search for my name, Jodi Green, like the color and like the cannabis plant. Easy to find.
Perfect. Mathew?
Wonderful. Yeah, the easiest way right now to get in touch with me if you're looking to further this conversation or just interested in the topics discussed is my LinkedIn profile. I'm readily available. I respond to messages there. And so please feel free, if you're listening and you would like to talk about this a little bit more, send me a quick note.
Perfect. Thank you both again. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice. Until next time.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without proper consent is prohibited.
Free Kids Workshops are back in stores at the Home Depot. On the first Saturday of every month from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., bring your little ones to a local Home Depot for a hands-on learning experience that kids love. Find more kid-friendly projects and kids workshop kits at homedepot.com/kids. For 25 years, the Home Depot has been building confident, future doers with its free kids workshops. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. While supplies last, U.S. only.
Everyone is howling about Paws of Fury. It's the most fun comedy of the summer.
I am your father. What? No, I'm not.
Michael Cera.
It's showtime.
And Samuel L. Jackson.
What the mother father cocker spaniel's going on here?
Paws of Fury. Only in theaters this Friday. Rated PG.